Hey folks, welcome to Maverick Gunworks channel. Today I'm going to talk about some woodwork refinishing projects we got going on here. And this one is pretty much unusual, I think, for an AK-47. A gentleman brought in his AK that has a blonde colored, I can think this is maple probably stock, and he wanted it to be more pronounced, have the grain to show a little better than what was from the factory. So far what we've done is sanded it down, stripped it from the little bit of finish that was on it from the factory. We used, I think it was 220 grit paper, got it pretty slick down, and we put a light colored stain on it that in doing so it actually brought out the grain a little bit better. The darker stripes in the grain show up more, so you can actually see a little bit of the, we'll say tiger stripe kind of thing going on with it. It shows up better now since we put a little bit of stain on it. And on this, the 4-inch piece actually looks really good like that. As you can see, really good, the good stripes show up better with it. So what we'll be doing next is putting a couple of coats of finish on it. I'm probably going to end up with 4 to 5 coats maybe. We're not covering the grain necessarily in this one. It's going to be a satin finish, but we're going to seal it real good with a product that I like to use a lot, Gun Saver. It's a satin, a hunter satin they call it. It's a oil and what's this? A urethane and oil finish blend. Works real good on gun stocks, and so that'll be something we'll show you. Once I finish it off, maybe we'll come back and do a quick show of what it looks like when it's put back on the gun. But that'll help seal it off and bring out the grain a lot better. Okay. Another project we've got going on here as far as woodwork goes. This is a Browning shotgun that had a high polish finish on it. It's being re-blued. We're going to high polish the blue finish on it too. But in doing so here, we've had old guns being beat up a lot. We've gone and stripped it down. This was a very hard, very thick coating since it was a high polish finish from the start with. So it took a lot of time to get the old finish off of it. And now we've just put our first coat of finish back on it and start building it up again. This is probably going to take 10, 12 coats at least to fill in the grain and get it where it can buff it out like it should be. But this is kind of what it looks like to start with. You've got kind of the first coat of finish is just soaked in good. It's kind of dull looking now. But by the time we get 3 or 4 coats on it, you'll start to see that it's going to be filled in better and it'll be a lot more shiny. And then for that one, we'll end up using our Birchwood Casey True Oil Finish. And this one, we actually rub it on by hand most of the time until maybe the last coat. We may spray it that way to help get it be smoothed out. But anyways, that's some of the stuff we're doing. And I just want to give a tidbit here about, you see we have the checkering taped off. We don't want to fill in the checkering with 10 coats of finish, because if you did, you wouldn't have a texture to it left. It'll be filled in pretty good. So we actually sandblast, we tape around the checkering to start with when it's thick like this. We'll sandblast the checkering to get the finish out of it. Then we're going to cover it up, and on the last 1 or 2 coats, we'll take the tape off of it to seal the checkering. It still leaves a good texture on your checkering. Otherwise, you'd end up just filling out the checkering in and wouldn't do any good. All right. So anyway, that's kind of what we've got going on there. And once we finish with the, especially on the high polish jobs, we'll end up with probably using one of these other Brownells products. A triple F is what we call it. It's a, or 5F rather. 5F is a super fine polish that will end up taking off some of any little defects, any lint, or whatever that's stuck to it. Will help polish that off and it'll come out looking just as slick as a piece of glass. All right. Otherwise, if you want something a little less bright, less shiny, we have the triple F polish, which works real well, a little more aggressive, takes more of the defects off. If you have a slight run, possibly we'd use something like this to try to get the run out, and then finish it off with the 5F. All right. So anyways, that's some of the stuff we've got going on there. And what I'll probably try to do, maybe in a few weeks, it's going to take several weeks to build this up. So we may be 3 weeks away before I get to show you the final finished product on this one. In the meantime, rest assured we put a coat on it every day or 2. It sits in our drying oven at 100 degrees or so overnight. Usually it's several days between coats. We'll scuff it up again with 4/0 steel wool that is dry. All right, we use a dry steel wool to scuff it off so that we get a good mechanical bond, and that's how we do it. Okay folks, I'm back here at the bench with a follow-up of what we've done so far on the stock refinishing projects we talked about earlier. So I want to show you, we'll kind of zoom in a little bit and get close-up picture of this. The stock for the AK-47 we're talking about, with the stain we put on it, it's brought out the darker colors of the grain really well. We've got 3 or 4 coats of finish on. I think now this is going to be a satin finish when we're done with it. But right now I've got to just kind of show you that the grain is popping out much better than it was before. And see if we'll get a good shot of the fore end here. We've got really good tiger stripe kind of going on with it. And we're going to scuff this up a little bit too with give it some 4/0 steel wool to get the adhesion works well. And we'll put another couple of coats on this, and we'll get the gun back together. But hopefully you can see from our beginning and ending product that we have much more pronounced grain now with what we've the color we put on it. And then the other one following up on is our Browning auto shotgun here that we're refinishing stock on it. And this one, I don't know if he mentioned it earlier, but we had a piece of wood right here at the top of the where it joins the receiver. There was a chunk missing out of it, and also one piece that had chipped up. We were able to put it back down and glue it in place permanently, and then the gap was missing. We're able to put a little bit of filler in here with some dye in it, and now we've gotten 4 coats I think on this one with a different product at all. This will be a thicker high gloss finish, and now we are getting close to filling in the grain. But again, we'll do this one with again, we'll scuff it up with some 4/0 steel wool and see if we can't continue to fill in the grain. It'll take a few more coats to get it all filled in and make it nice and slick like the customer is looking for. Even we had a spot under the pistol grip here that had, at some time in the past, this had probably a cap on it, but during the history of the gun, it's gotten removed. They left a stud screwed into it, so we machined that out and put some filler in that to help kind of hide where the hole used to be, because they opted not to try to replace it. So we kind of blended it in with the wood grain. Anyways, that's a look at our progress on the stock restoration pieces, and here's the fore end for the Browning. So hopefully we're going to work out nicely. But we'll continue with this and give you another update in a few days after we have some more layers on it and get it close to the finished product. All right, we've got I think 4 or 5 coats of finish on our Browning stock, and I'm going to scuff it up again. I keep talking about scuffing it with 4/0 steel wool, and here's why, and here's what we do. But basically you want to have a mechanical bond instead of a chemical bond on these things. After it's done and dried hard and cured for a couple of days, the next layer of finish is not going to stick to it if you don't do something to scuff it up. You give a little bit of a texture to it, so that's what we're doing here. At the same time, I'm taking off any debris, any little dust, any nipples sticking up that will make it keep it from being slick at the final product. So anyway, that's what we do. You can see if we maybe get a close-up might help a little bit, but the grain is almost filled in, and because this is going to be a completely filled high polish product when we're finished with it, we have to keep adding layers of finish to it. So this takes a while, man. We'll be working on this piece of wood for several weeks to get it built up like it needs to be before we put the gun back together, and we'll show you that once we get it done. But anyway, we're always watching for any kind of runs, any sags in the finish. But I'll tell you a little tidbit about using this 4/0 steel wool. I like to get over a bucket and keep it over the bucket as much as I can while I'm scuffing it up, because this will come apart. You're going to leave little pieces, little slivers of steel wool all over the floor if you don't do that. And even doing so, I keep it where I can get to it with the vacuum cleaner really quick after we get done, because I don't want to be walking through this little metal shavings and track them all over the floor, all over the shop, you know. But anyway, we're just going to go along here. Takes a little bit of pressure, and we'll go through here, scuff it up, get all the shiny off of it for the most part on the very top surface. And you be careful with this steel wool. It's not so bad as far as digging into the wood, but you want to be cautious of rolling the edges. Make sure you keep your pressure straight as you go off the end of it, so you don't roll the edges. Because if you do that, you'll end up with the recoil pad having a little gap right here, and that's what we don't want for sure. You know, we want it to fit like it came from the factory with a perfect fit to it. So anyway, we'll continue with this, and that's pretty much what you have to do. You can see I'm putting a good bit of pressure on it, but right there you see the dull finish now versus the shiny slick finish. So we'll take this and continue with the 4-inch and the buttstock here, get those scuffed up again and put another coat on it, and we'll continue with the process. Okay, now we've got the wood furniture back on our AK rifle, and daggone, I think it looks pretty good for what we're looking for. If you can see, nice tiger stripe kind of pattern on our wood here. That's what the gentleman was going for. Wanted to be able to distinguish the stripes on it a little better than what it was from the factory. So hopefully he'll be happy with that. So, there you go. You can see most of the steps to go along with this, how to make it happen. So anyways, there you go. Back here a few weeks after we started this project. I don't know, Lord knows it's been probably a month at least, I think, maybe 6 weeks now. But anyways, I believe there's 8, maybe 9 coats of finish on this stock here. But we finally got our final process done. She's slick as it can be. Nice and shiny, all the grains filled in now. And we will put a final polish on it. And next little while, put it back on the gun and get her going again. And so there's a 4-end. We had a little bit of a repair on the crack here, a little crack here we repaired. And other than that, a lot of sanding, filling, recoating. And it has to dry several days between coats right now to make sure it's going to be what it should be when the final product happens. So don't, you know, it's not a one-day kind of thing, but you can see what the final result is. Looks cotton picking good, I believe. It'll look better than, probably as good or better than it was when it was new, hopefully. Anyway, if that's something that you like, give us a thumbs up maybe, and let me know that folks are watching us and that it helps you with some of your projects. And if you got some tips maybe about some woodwork, let us know. Lord knows we're not perfect, and I can always use some help making it better. All right, thanks for watching.